Hello everybody, here we are today talking about Russia and its ban in international play and the impact it has on its players, etc. So before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So yes, we've talked about this before on the channel, and I'm sure you're wondering why we're rehashing it again. Well, we have to talk about why Russia and Belarus are banned. We're going to be primarily focusing on Russia in this video. But Russia is banned by the IIHF because of their invasion into Ukraine in 2022, which is still an ongoing war. And the reason we're talking about this, especially today, is because of the fact that the IIHF extended the ban or the suspension, if you will, of Belarus and Russia through May of 2025. Why is it important? It's important for a variety of reasons. You're looking at the fact that World Juniors will see Russia not represented there yet again. And on top of that too, the Winter Olympics will be in 2026, meaning that a lot of things are going to have to change in a very short amount of time for the suspension to be uplifted for Russia, especially if they want to be able to play in the Winter Olympic Games. But on top of that too, I did want to highlight the article written by The Athletic talking with multiple Russian players and how they felt about the ban, because I do think that gives this more of a human element that a lot of people are brushing over here. And reading this article, there's a lot of different thoughts and takeaways here from individuals. Obviously, Kirill Kaprizov ends up talking about his experience in the 2018 Olympics and how special that was for him. And The Athletic was able to interview a lot of Russian players. Artemy Panarin was one of those, Mikhail Sergachev, Nikita Kucherov, Andrei Vasilevsky, Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Malkin, multiple big-name players. And they all had something that was a little bit different to say, but there was a lot of the human element that is so crucial here. So Sergachev ends up talking about in the article how big of a deal this was for him, being able to sneak out of his room at night and turn on the TV while his parents were, going to sleep, and he stayed up and was so excited to see the 2008 Winter Olympics that he was basically screaming on the inside so that way he wouldn't wake up his family in his apartment. And that's just one of the things here you get to see with this article. There's other things you get to see here as well that are more of the veteran characters, I guess if you will, seeing guys like Vasilevsky and Kucherov talk about how they want to be able to participate in the Olympics and understanding that their time could be running out. Vasilevsky is somebody that really comes to mind here because he does talk about how it is such a big deal for family over there to be able to watch this. Now, I'm not exactly sure how everything works over there, but it does seem like the Olympics are easily accessible, which we know a lot of times countries around the world are able to broadcast the Olympics to their country relatively easily, whereas the NHL might be a bigger issue. Think about the fact as well that Russia has such a big time zone that it might be difficult to watch NHL games. But Vasi saying, not only do I want my family to see it, everybody else's family, that it's a big deal. I'm at the point where I realize that if things don't change soon here, I'm going to be coaching for the Russian team before I would ever get to play in the Olympics for Russia. And that's insane because Vasi is a Vezina winning goalie that is a two-time Stanley Cup champion that unfortunately has not got to see the Olympics because of the whole issue with the NHL and with how they did their, their CBA and whatnot with the Olympics. That was a big pain that was going to get resolved in 2022. Players were not able to go because of the bubble and just COVID and everything like that. And now you're in a spot where guys missed the 2018 Winter Olympics, and now they are missing the 2022 already, and now Russian players are being barred possibly from the 2026 Olympics. Every 4 years, it kind of adds up whether or not you're good enough to make it or not, but just at a point where you are good enough, but you're not even able to play. Kucherov is another name that comes to mind with this interview. This is a guy that's won the heart and just kind of speaks on that fact, again, like Vasilevsky, that he's at a spot where he realizes that despite him being a good player, he just might not be able to play in the Olympic Games, which is really unfortunate. As for other individuals in this interview, I do think kind of the sentiments of Evgeny Malkin and Alexander Ovechkin are similar in the fact that they want the ban to be lifted, but they realize that it is in place right now. And Malkin kind of talks about as well too that he thinks not only is it to punish Russia for its actions in the invasion of Ukraine, but also for player safety, because we think about it in the US, I think, in a different light. Now, my mindset's a little bit different because I keep up with world events more than most people probably would, because that's something that I'm really into. But the reality is Europeans face a different world where they may see the war in Ukraine differently because it's on their continent. It's in their continent. And for Malkin, he was talking about the fact that that would be something they have to worry about possibly going to the Olympics, whether or not the players that were Russian would be able to be safe. So I totally get that. And then finally, with kind of the player element, I think one of the things that I really thought was interesting, I can't remember if it was Ovechkin or Malkin. I think it was Malkin in the article talked about every year that the World Juniors doesn't see Russia in it is another year that these younger kids don't get that opportunity to showcase what they can do, but also play against the talent and then keep this rivalry going between some of their top-end hockey countries. So that was really something that was eye-opening, because it was really cool to see a veteran talk about younger players that aren't even in the NHL yet, and to hear his side on that, because his time in the league is likely done. His time playing hockey could be done as well. And to see him focus not only on himself, but that younger generation was really special. Now, aside from the human element as well, too, we know that Russia is a very good nation. If you look at World Juniors, too, just seeing what they've done since 2000 through 2021, they were able to get a medal almost every year. There was just 5 times they weren't able to do it. They ended up taking home bronze 6 times. They had silver 8 times, and they were able to claim gold on 3 occasions. So even if you look at just juniors and seeing a lot of the young talent that comes through, you understand the rich history that exists not only as Russia, but prior to this, you have the Soviet Union as well, as they have rich hockey history too. And it is one of those situations where you wonder what's happening there in the future, as well as the fact you have the Olympics, and Russia has done well on the world stage and in the Olympics as well too. And you are seeing this talent that may not get to showcase itself, and wondering if that is hurting the competition. Now, ultimately, though, I do realize that this is much bigger than hockey, as it involves a terrible war that should not be happening. However, I do think that Russia should be allowed to play in international competition, and here's why. Even if it's just World Juniors, you have a situation where a lot of these kids that could be draft eligible in a few years, maybe they don't get drafted, maybe they do, maybe, whatever happens there happens. They have the potential to showcase their opportunity to an NHL audience and be able to possibly defect, kind of like the Soviet era where you saw a lot of players defect over to the US. Now, those players were older, mind you, but this is one of those deals where if you are concerned about something like that happening and you're a younger Russian player, this could be your opportunity to get out and get into a better life, and that is big. Now, as for the Olympic stage, in my opinion, I would say allow Russian players, but you could do it as a neutral team. Just because they come from an area doesn't mean they shouldn't get the right to play. They could, again, whatever you want to do, you could give them gray jerseys. I don't think it really matters to them. I just think it really is more about getting that opportunity to be at that Olympic level. And for some of these guys that have never been able to be there before, this would be their opportunity. And that's just kind of my take on it. I feel like I have the same opinion that I've had really this whole time, that you can't punish people for what a regime does. And yes, there are actions done by people because of that regime, and I understand that wholeheartedly. But at the same time, too, out of the 147 million Russians that live in Russia, do you think that all of them agree with what's happening here? Do you think that they want to be a part of this? Don't you think that people have lost loved ones because of the actions of a few? So why should these individuals be punished for possibly getting away from all that, and again, having a better life? Whether or not they're going to have to possibly, grease the wheels a little bit, grease the gears, and talk to higher up Russian officials and say, I'm going there to highlight Russian talent, and say that, we are still a good hockey nation, when in reality they just want to leave. That is really up to you, but we are at a spot right now where I'm hoping that the IIHF will suspend these bans, or end these bans, by May of 2025, not only for the Olympic players, but especially for the younger players. But anyway, what are your thoughts on all this? What do you think about the players revealing what they said in The Athletic? Let me know all that stuff down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.